To see the connection from our grassroots program, it doesn't get any better.
Leon, thank you very much for stopping by. It's a great story. Good luck to you. We're going to be pulling for you, bud.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We are set to go racing here in Austin.
They're going to go 4 wide. That is going to shuffle back the pole sitter, John Dean II.
The expectation was to finish, get consistent finishes, because consistency does win in this series.
Boy, look at Brian Ortiz. That car steps out just a bit as they're going to go 3 wide for the lead. Roland stands on the throttle. He's going to push Ortiz wide. They're still door to door here in Austin, battling for the win in round 1. On the last couple corners out of the final corner, Jake, they're both getting sideways, heading for the start-finish line.
Oh, and Roland got loose, all kinds of activity, and Brian Ortiz to take the checkered flag, won a race today.
I was relieved that I finished 3rd. My heart stopped. I saw the wall and definitely didn't want to go there. I kind of let go of the wheel and just kind of let it do its thing and held it, I guess, at the right time.
There you go. Almost. You're good. You're right there. I mean, you made one heck of a pass back there on the carousel on the inside. I didn't even see it coming. That was awesome.
Good job. Good job. That was awesome.
To get a podium on my debut, almost win it, it was amazing. So I graduated May 2017 from the University of Central Florida with a sociology degree. From there, I got a job actually with Classic Mazda, dealership in Orlando. I'm living the product, basically. It's all around me. I'm selling the cars. I know the brand. With the customer, it's about that emotional connection, and that's what they get. It's an enthusiast brand, and I'm obviously an enthusiast to this brand. I'm working during the day at the Mazda dealership, and now I'm living my dream here, being a professional driver, being a factory driver for Mazda. Long term, I would definitely love to move up the Mazda ladder, eventually end up in the prototype. That'll be the goal, you know. Mazda road to 24. It's Celine's road to 24. Let's just see if I can follow that ladder system and stay on it.
Celine Roland, bad news for him in 6 sideways racing. He was scheduled to roll off in row number 2. That car will move to the rear of the grid because of the crew working on the car after the pre-grid had closed. That pace car is off, and they already starting to fan out. Ortiz gets that good jump. As a matter of fact, this is a much better start for the leader than we saw yesterday. Celine Roland has worked his way up into the 11th position. Now more separation among the top 5. Those guys are really starting to pull away. But now all of a sudden Roland works his way in, trying to get into that front 5. The only thing between Celine Roland and the leader Brian Ortiz is about 6 or 7 car lengths.
I just need it to be over. My heart is not going to last.
I know.
This might be the battle right here for the win. What an outstanding job here for that rookie and Celine Roland, working his way from the back up to the front.
Push it, don't need to push it. We still got time. We still got time.
Roland going to try to take a peek to the inside. Nice move there for Celine Roland. We see a couple of offs. Ryan Hall stuck in the gravel. This is almost a carbon copy of what we saw yesterday. Roland was in the lead late. There was the shootout at the end. Ortiz was able to get around him. This is a learning series. What did he learn yesterday? So Ortiz is right on his heels. Boy, he got a little bit loose. Green flag is out. We're back to racing. Ortiz going to try to work to the inside. Brian Ortiz going to try to take back over the lead. Battle up front, Ortiz with Roland right there. Ortiz, he just gave up the lead once again. This time it's Roland who gets past. Now he's going to try to make a side-by-side move as the bottom of the racetrack opens up. 87 of Roland is shoved wide.
Oh my God. Just that last turn. It's that last turn.
Less than a minute to go. Does Brian Ortiz have anything left in an attempt to sweep this weekend? Side by side, but Roland moves over, shoves him to the bottom of the racetrack. They both go very, 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 very wide. Checkered flag is out, and it looks like the rookie is going to go to victory lane here in Coda. What a spirited drive of Roland, penalized in the pre-race, having to move to the rear of the field, charges all the way through and is going to go to victory lane.
Did you think you could race your
to the front and win this thing?
Didn't expect that. Definitely going into the race, I was definitely upset with starting in the back, but people were being a little cautious, and I couldn't be cautious. I had to go forward, and once I started, I saw the front of the pack, and I was like, wow, I'm actually catching them. I'm still in shock, but wow, we won on our first weekend, third and first, and starting from the back, that's crazy.
How are you feeling right now?
I feel great. I feel great. I feel alive. Mazda makes me feel alive.
A rising star, battery tender global MX-5 Cup. Mark James, Nick Yeoman, happy to have you join us here from beautiful Barber Motorsports Park. It's the second half of what is always a doubleheader weekend for the series, Nick.
Yep, this was round number 4, but it's race 2 of the weekend. Yesterday, what a treat watching 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers slug it out for the full 45 minutes here. It was yesterday. Today, Mark, we expect much of the same. Here's a look at some of the drivers starting here towards the top of the field. Joey Vickers is on the front row with John Dean. Nathaniel Sparks and Todd Lamb will make up row number 2. Brian Ortiz and Gresham Wagner in row number 3. Row 4 was Celine Roland, one of those winners that you just saw the video feature of from COTA. He will start in the 7th position. Luke Oxner to his outside. And then in row 5, Hernan Palermo and Robert Stout. You look at that top 10, Mark, I think a winner can come from any of those positions.
And yesterday's winner is going to come from the 11th spot. He will start just behind them, along with the outstanding rookie Robert Doker, about 14 years old, and he's out here competing in this battery tender global MX-5 Cup Series.
Here comes the field through the carousel. Tony Laporta once again positioned down in turn 1. He will let them fly into turn 1, Mark James. They come to the final corner here as we're set to go racing at Barber.
Tony Laporta has set up shop in turn number 1 at pit exit, and he will help us call the start. Vickers and Dean bring him up to speed. Green flag flies, and the 34 of Vickers jumps to P1 to the corner.
They're off, guys, down into turn 1. Vickers does a good job covering the field, gets right out in front of Nathaniel Sparks. Sparky's into P2 as they head up out of turn 1 through that long sweeping turn 2, which will set them up into 3. We're off and racing here, guys.
Gresham Wagner with a wide turn at the exit of turn number 1, using every bit of real estate at his disposal. Troublesome turn 5 for most series this weekend. We'll see how the top 2 do here as Brian Ortiz makes the big jump to P2. He follows Vickers through turn number 5, tries to get the bumper underneath him. Meanwhile, back behind them, Nick Yeoman, they go 2 by 2 by 2 by 2.
Boy, the big winner on the start of the race might be Hernan Palermo in that bright green car. He started this event in 9th. And Mark, he's looking to the outside, trying to grab the 3rd spot. May have to fall in line. He may lose that 4th spot as well as Nathaniel Sparks runs up the inside down by the museum.
And they are exiting that area around the museum now. What is the back straightaway is what they will tackle next. The other pit reporter joining us today is Jay Query.
And there is a problem on the track. As a matter of fact, that's down at the bottom of the carousel. That is car number 71. That is Matt Koshikin, who has found himself off track, but everybody else remains up front still running. Wanted to point out, when you talk about Palermo, for example, he is running in the Masters division. That means those that are 40 and over. He's competing in that division along with Todd Lamb. Will be interesting to see how Lamb handles the outset of this race, because he started, Mark, in the 4th position. He was in great position yesterday. Late in the race, he got run off the course. He said he got punted. He drove his car right off the track. You would just think that frustration and wanting to get out there and get perhaps aggressive early for Todd Lamb, or does he take the mindset of, let me try to keep it clean? Again, started in the 4th position as we now have a full course caution here, and Todd Lamb under that full course caution dropped 3 spots there in that first lap.
Kyle Kimball, Gresham Wagner also involved, and we see that's the 5 that the smoke is rolling off of as he makes his way around the course. That's Gresham Wagner, the rookie. He was involved in that. Might have been 2 separate incidents, but as many as 3 cars involved, Nick.
Yeah, and that all happened down the hill through the S's by the museum, where we saw a couple cars turned around. One of them included Gresham Wagner, and then the 3rd car involved, not exactly sure what happened to Kyle Kimball, but he is the one that stopped out on the racetrack, and that's what has facilitated the full course yellow. AMR IndyCar safety crew is up there in the S's picking up some pieces of race car that have been left on the racetrack. And Mark, that's what you're going to see. As tight as these guys run and as much as they're trying to get on the start of this race, you're going to have a little beating and banging tough break for those drivers as the right front, heavy bit of damage for Gresham Wagner.
Mo Murray joins us in the booth. And Mo, let's talk about the turnaround time for these teams. A race yesterday, some cars had a little bit of damage, body work primarily, but busy night for the crews to get them back to race ready this morning?
Yeah, the cars there's not a lot that they can change on the cars. A lot of the parts are standard parts. But they do need to go through the cars and work on them. Body damage, we carry a spares truck with some body kits in them. And, of course, these cars are all wrapped, and a nice wrap will cover up all kinds of damage on these cars. So, not too late at night for the guys last night. Having an afternoon race and then an early morning race the very next morning makes that turnaround time tight. But I think the guys are ready. But nobody wants to go out on the first lap of a race. You put all that work in and you go out on the first lap of the race. We see Gresham Wagner stepping out of his car. His front end alignment is way out. I'm not sure the BF Goodrich tires are really good, but I don't think they're made for what he was doing with that right front tire.
And that's a bit of a rarity, Mo, in the races that we saw throughout the course of last season, and certainly in the season opener of the circuit. These guys lay on one another quite a bit. I mean, it takes a pretty good pop to render one of these cars to the point to where you can't drive them.
Yeah, that's true. They're fendered cars, and so they're good for close racing.
Jake Query.
Gresham Wagner has stepped out of that 6 sideways number 5 machine. You got to look over it. First off, take me through what happened on track.
Going down to the hairpin, I had the electronics cut out, and so I got an ABS there and no power steering. So I was having a little bit of trouble the rest of that straightaway. I tried recycling the electronics. I was still having the errors. And then down to the museum corner, I had to take it pretty slow because, again, no power steering and no ABS. I just got hit from behind and spun around, which, I mean, I was a little bit off the pace. I can understand how to stack people up behind me. Couldn't really do much about it, though.
This particular track, where is the biggest challenge? What's the trickiest corner?
Definitely the start down to the hairpin, because everybody kind of is stacked up in turn 2 and then gets a big draft down to the hairpin. So it's all 3 wide and pretty deep braking and everything, so it's pretty sketchy down in there.
I know obviously you're disappointed. Glad to see you're okay. We'll catch you next time.
At the end of the year.
At the end of the year?
Yep, that's the next race for me.
All right, well, we'll give you plenty of time to take a look at that car. Again, I know disappointing, and that obviously has to accelerate and exemplify that disappointment. Tony?
Yeah, guys, I'm down here with Matt Koskinen, the number is 71. Matt, a little bit of damage to the right rear on the back of this MX-5 Cup car. Just talk to me what happened, and did you have any chance of getting out of that?
Well, I thought I was going to have a chance. There was an issue in front of me going down into turn 7. 2 guys got together, and I tried to go to the outside, and I just got collected. I wanted to try and avoid going to the grass. I don't even know if I could have gotten there. I just kind of reacted, and unfortunately, our day was over really quick. String of bad luck for me. I had another incident where I was taken out at COTA, so you just have to let it roll off your back. I just hope that the next time we're out here, we can run clean with everybody.
It'll be about a year until we come back here to Barber Motorsports Park, then about a month and a half off roughly. Series back on track for rounds 5 and 6 at Road America. Are you going to be ready to go back by then?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to be able to make Road America. It's kind of up in the air right now. I know the rest of my team will be there, so hopefully I can get there. If not Road America, I should definitely make Mid-Ohio. So.
All right, well, Matt Koskinen, tough luck out here early. Thanks for the time, and hopefully we'll see you back on the track before too long.
Thanks very much. I'd just like to thank my sponsor, thisapp.io. You can see we got the Bitcoin on the car right there, so Bitcoin's been very good to us, and thisapp.io makes it easier for merchants to collect cryptocurrency.
All right, Matt Koskinen knows how to work the sponsors. Matt, thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Attaboy.
You have to.
That's what you got to do for
Absolutely.
sure. The 14 machine, by the way, of Kyle Kimball, Nick, on the toe strap. It's headed back to pit road as we speak.
Yep, and where he stopped on the racetrack, it's a good little haul back to the paddock and where the MX-5 teams are set up, so that's why this caution probably a little bit longer than we expected. It looks like most of the cleanup has been completed up at the top of the hill by the museum portion of the racetrack. So, Mark, it looks like we'll be getting back to green flag racing here momentarily. It was a fantastic start by Joey Vickers. Brian Ortiz runs second. John Dean is third. Nathaniel Sparks is fourth. And Hernan Palermo fifth, as they're already jumping back on the accelerator here at Barber.
A 71 to the 5. The incident between the two was under investigation by race control, and they determined no action will be taken. Green flag is out, as Nick Yeoman said, and it's Vickers with a great jump over Ortiz and John Dean. Sparks and Palermo single file through that Alabama roller coaster.
Our winner from yesterday, Nico Reger's already getting aggressive as he jumps to the inside of the 53 car of Keith Jensen to get around him in turn number 1, so move Reger up to the 9th position. His work still cut out for him. As for the leaders, Mark Janes already fanning out a battle for the lead into turn 5.
Ortiz wants the bottom of the racetrack. He has it. Left side, jumps to curbing, but he'll hold tight. Now he loses all kind of momentum. He's going to force John Dean off of the racetrack, but Dean's still able to grab the 2nd spot, and it looks like Sparks is going to grab a spot too. He wants 3rd.
Boy, all of a sudden, it's like Ortiz didn't have anything power-wise exiting turn 5, and he got freight trained by Dean. And then, of course, the battle with Sparks was pretty aggressive as well, with Sparky putting the right side tires off into the grass. It settles down now, and the guy who's loving that, Mark, has to be the leader, Joey Vickers, who is clear by about 8 car lengths.
Race Control has told the 53 of Keith Jensen that he needs to make a drive-through through the pits because he jumped the start of the race, the restart of the race, or the race rather, in order to gain some position. So he jumped the start of the race, taking him a while to look at that, Nick, but the 53 has been ordered to drive through penalty.
That's a tough penalty for him to serve, especially here at Barber, where everything runs so tight. Here's the battle for 2nd through about 5th as everyone's chasing Vickers through the carousel. Nathaniel Sparks in that black, white, and orange car, green accentuations as well, trying to hold off Brian Ortiz. And there's Hernan Palermo, Mark, in that green car, who was awful aggressive at the start, jumping from 9th. He runs in the 5th spot.
Palermo wants that spot, but he'll decide to tuck in single file with the rest of that crew as they make their way around turn number 3. They'll start to tackle the hill now, pop back into our view momentarily as they set up for turn 4. We'll keep an eye on the battle for the lead through turn number 5 while we head to pit road. Check in with Jay Query.
And Jensen just served that drive-through penalty, as a matter of fact. You mentioned it took a few laps for them to finally make that ruling, but for somebody who started this race 13th, was running in the top 15, now all of a sudden a big blow. He's going to have a lot of real estate to make up. That drive-through penalty, though, has been served.
Palermo with a wide swing at the setup of turn number 6. He's got Ortiz just in front of him, but now he's under attack. The 87 of Roland wants a piece of him as they set up for turn 7.
First time we've mentioned Celine Roland, the rookie driver who had maybe a forgettable day yesterday as he just didn't have the car to get up front. But right now, Mark, he's running in that lead pack, 6th car in line, that Soul Red Mazda MX-5, and he is hounding the back of Hernan Palermo. And speaking of hounding the back of the car, that's what Brian Ortiz is doing right now for Nathaniel Sparks as he's trying to wrestle away that 3rd spot.
Well, an incident earlier between those two is under review as we speak, talking about the 4 of Ortiz and the 8 of Nathaniel Sparks. Again, Race Control taking a look at an incident between those two.
Just got a quick view of the number 12 machine of Michael Globe from Brenham, Texas, from Slipstream Performances. He had a slight spin by the museum. He got that car righted around. Here come the leaders, though, Mark Janes, once again on the front stretch.
We are looking at the 87 of Roland. He is towing Todd Lamb down the straightaway with him. Just behind them, Stout and Reger. Those are all fast cars, and a couple of those guys, most notably Reger, your winner yesterday. He's the guy who won race number 1. You know he has a fast race car, but they just can't make it through the 3 or 4 cars in front of them with any hopes of catching the leader.
Now, I'll tell you what we're seeing very similar to what we saw yesterday, kind of a 9-car breakaway right now from Vickers all the way back to the 9th place running Nico Reger, who won the race yesterday. Reger's now looking to the outside, trying to get around Robert Stout. That's the long way around, Mark Janes. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to complete that pass, but he's going to hold that 01 car to the outside of Stout.
Now, Race Control tells car 4, you've been warned for blocking. So that's Brian Ortiz. They don't mind aggressive driving, but blocking is a no-no. And Race Control has warned 4th place running Brian Ortiz in the 4 car.
Look at this battle for 8th. These two have been locked side by side. That's Stout in the red, white, and blue car, and Nico Reger with the black and blue car with the green cage. They've been side by side, Mark, for probably half a lap now. They're like magnets here around Barber Motorsports Park.
They stay side by side, and the rumble strips don't do anything to deter them down the back straightaway. Now that battle starts to settle out a little bit, as it looks like Stout has a bit of an advantage now as they work their way into turn 13.
It's not like Nico Reger was going to wait very long as he's looking awful aggressive here through the carousel. He knows, Mark, he's got a fast car. He went to victory lane yesterday, doesn't want to be running back in the 9th position, trying to make quick work of Robert Stout, but we saw a year ago Robert Stout is a tough guy to pass and beat.
Separation among the front four. Things tighten up a little bit from Lamb to Stout to Reger. Actually, Roland just in front of them. He has that second pack in tow as they work their way through turn number 3.
And now Reger finally completes that pass. Got to the inside heading to turn number 1. So Nico Reger, yesterday's winner mark, gets by Robert Stout, moving him into the 8th position.
Sparks and Ortiz continue to be a pretty good battle. That's the battle for third. It is in turn number 5. It's nose to tail. Those front four with a bit of separation now. With that pack running just behind them and Celine Roland. He gets a little separation to the exit of turn number 6 as we head to back to pit road. And Tony.
Yeah, guys, just down here on pit lane, sitting on one of the stands, really enjoying this battle you were just calling between Robert Stout and Nico Reger. Stout not really a stranger to the wheel-to-wheel competition, and don't be too surprised if he drops the wheel, gets a little sideways, and keeps his foot in it. Robert Stout coming to the Global MX-5 Cup last year, scoring that Rookie of the Year prize of $50,000, but coming into the series with definitely one of the more diverse driving backgrounds as far as this field of drivers goes. He's done all kinds of different racing series in all sorts of different cars on all kinds of different tracks, dirt being one of his big backgrounds before coming over here to the Global MX-5 Cup. He has spent a lot of time driving sideways on the dirt, so we saw it a bit in Texas. Don't be too surprised to see Robert Stout let it all hang out here. The guy has a very diverse driving background, and it really comes to show when conditions get a little sideways on him.
So your leaderboard looks like this. At the top continues to be Vickers, then John Dean, then Sparks, Ortiz, and Roland, Palermo, Lamb, Stout, Reger, and Oxter, the top 10. Actually, Stout, then Oxter. Noker is 11th. Henderson, Pinkerton, Harrison, and Schmidt, the top 15. Nick Yeoman is we're about 30. We have about 30 minutes remaining in this 45-minute race.
Yep, it's been a pretty competitive race so far. Mo Murray from Mazda joins us at the booth, and we talk a little bit about Robert Stout and his background. A lot of different avenues for these drivers to find their way here into MX-5.
Well, and if we look at the guys in first and second place, if I'm Joey Vickers, the last guy I want to see in my mirrors is John Dean. John's a former series champion as a driver. He's a multiple champion as a team owner. He works these cars exceptionally well as the owner of Six Sideways Racing. Of course, we field a whole slew of these cars in this series. And he knows how to make the data work. He knows how to make the cars work. He knows every little trick in the book because he's been around these cars for so long. And although he's not the oldest guy in the field, John is certainly the wily old fox of the field, and he's not somebody you want in your mirrors.
Well, let's talk about the overall benefit. I mean, I've talked to drivers about driving for drivers as team owners, being able to speak the language. That's a huge benefit for the series to have that at their disposal, is it not?
It is, and even Vickers drives for the McCumbee-McAleer team, both Chad McCumbee and Stephen McAleer, both very accomplished drivers in their own right, and they put together a very nice team in this series. John Dean, of course, is the owner of Six Sideways. Sparky drives for John Dean, as does Celine Roland, as does Wagner, and several other drivers in the field. And particularly with these cars, the ability to understand the car and the setup and the tires and all those kind of things from the driver's seat, I think, allows John Dean and somebody like Chad McCumbee or Stephen McAleer to be truly a mentor to the young drivers who come in, or maybe not so young drivers, but drivers who don't have experience of this tire or this car. It allows them to really take advantage of years of experience.
Oxner and Noker hooked up in a pretty good battle. That's the battle for 10th. It's side by side through turn number 3. We'll see them crest the hill momentarily. As we say that, though, back up front, Nick, it appears as though that third and fourth place running car have decided to go nose to tail for a while. Sparks and Ortiz, they want to work together and put some heat on John Dean.
Yeah, but wrapping up that battle that we're watching here, Walker looks like he's going to make that pass on Luke Oxner. Those pair of white cars have really been slugging it out. That's probably the best battle of that next group, as the front 9 have kind of checked out as they make their way back down the hill. Those drivers have a nice little battle of their own, as that 14-year-old's done a tremendous job, now finds himself in the top 10 here at Barber.
Let's expand a little bit, Mo, about that 14-year-old kid.
14
Tell us
years
a
old.
little more about him.
I've got shoes older than him. This kid is incredible. He's out here, and it's not like he's 14 years old and learning his way through the series and hanging out at the back of the field. This is the 4th race of the year now, and he's been in the top half of the field.
That's right.
Every time. He got a top 10 finish yesterday, and he's running. Where is he now? He's in the top 10 right now. What an amazing kid.
Yeah, I'll admit, Nick, researching this thing, I mean, I've read that a couple of times just to make sure that was not a misprint. And when I saw his age referenced 3 or 4 times in the story, then I knew he was a legit 14 years old. Let's go back to pit road and Jake Query.
Taking a look in again on John Dean II, as Mo, who was just talking about. This is a former series champion. He won it back in 2015, but interesting as you watch him, he started on pole, of course, at the beginning of this season, now running in the second position. No stranger, obviously, to the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires. But, guys, he got his racing start and caught the bug, if you will, by watching MotoGP among a number of different cars. And it's interesting because as we are announcers watching John Dean II, you think to yourself, we like racing because we like announcing it. He, on the other hand, got introduced because of announcing. His father was an announcer of the endurance race at Sebring for over 20 years, and just being around that atmosphere got that racing bug in John Dean II. His dad also a racer. Then, of course, he finds himself a series champion 3 years ago, trying to duplicate that feat once again here in 2018.
So, Mo Murray, when you walked through the paddock yesterday after the race, did you kind of chastise these drivers for the lack of action? What, only 256 passes yesterday? I mean, could we have a little competition, please?
Yeah, you're checking the stats on Robert Noah.
The leader spun. The leader,
Brian Ortiz.
Joey Vickers got sideways, and Brian Ortiz, Mark, looks like he had nowhere to go. Ortiz, left side of that car, got off the ground. He came back down pretty hard. Both of those drivers with significant damage. As, again, this happens at the front of the field. Joey Vickers really unchallenged through 8 laps, but major problems for him.
That car of Ortiz almost got airborne. Here's the replay.
Boy, he just got sideways there through the S's. That car got sideways. John Dean narrowly got past, and then Brian Ortiz trying to avoid him.
My goodness.
Wow, what a ride.
He just almost ramped up and got rolled over. My goodness. That was very, very, very close, Tony.
Yeah, guys, I'm standing down here on pit lane, and the 4 just drove by me at Brian Ortiz. The left front is completely caved up inside the wheel well of that MX-5 Cup car. The wheel or the tire are not rotating at all. They're down, probably heading to Jake right now, but hard damage on both Vickers and Ortiz as they park it in their pit stalls.
Jake?
As a matter of fact, Ortiz, you are exactly right, Tony. They're going to take a hard look at that front left. They had brought out another BF Goodrich tire to make that change, but I think that wheel is so indented into the left, they're going to have to take a long, hard look, and we'll see if Ortiz is even able to get that car out, because that suspension on the front left has been very compromised. Meanwhile, just in front of him, Joey Vickers has brought his car in. They're taking a look at the undercarriage of that MX-5, taking a look at the balance underneath it. And as a matter of fact, if they thought they were going to be able to just come in, make a quick change, and send him back out, that's not going to be the case. The engine of that 34 has shut down.
And all of that allowed Celine Roland, Nick Yeoman, to get into the top 3. He was flirting with that, slowly but surely trying to catch that lead back.
Yep, and now we see that battle for the lead shaping up. You lose a couple contenders, doesn't mean it's going to affect the race. You guys still got some tight racing as John Dean and Nathaniel Sparks out of the final corner. They'll cross the start-finish line. Think about the championship implications for Brian Ortiz. He started the season with a win, a second-place finish, and then another second-place finish yesterday. Mark, this is going to be a big hit as he's tumbled all the way down to 24th and more than likely out of this race as Celine Roland's going for a ride through the Alabama roller coaster.
And we watched the 0-1 of Nico Reger, yesterday's winner. He set that up down the straightaway. Nick started putting pressure on to turn number 1, and as soon as he bobbled, he was able to grab the spot. So Nico Reger looking to sweep the weekend. He's got a lot of work to do, but he's at least improved a position over the 87 of Celine Roland. Back to pit road and Tony.
Yeah, guys, I'm down here in the number 4 pit. Brian, tough luck. That's a lot of damage to the front end of this car. Obviously no chance of getting back out there. Tell me what happened.
Well, I was just hanging in there for just saving my car and my tires. And the car, I don't remember, the one that was first, he spun in the middle of the uphill. And when he corrected the car, I pulled to the right and he pulled to the right. And I just had nowhere to go. We're really quick through there. So it's a bummer. We had a great car today. I think we had a better car than yesterday. We just needed to save our stuff and be there at the end. So we're not happy for sure. We're running for the championship, and this is not a good way to end the race. especially when you have a chance to win. And it was not our racing incident. We were not bad in it. He just spun, and when he corrected, I pulled to the right to pass him, and he pulled right as well, and I had nowhere to go.
Brian Ortiz, tough luck. A lot of heavy damage left front. We're glad you're okay, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody down there in Puerto Rico watching the race. This sucks, but we'll come back for next race.
All right, again, Brian Ortiz, the number 4, out early here in round 4 in Alabama.
Yeah, wild ride for Brian Ortiz, although Mo is kind of used to that. He took one a little bit scarier than that at the end of the season last year at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. But what a tough break for that kid. As he mentioned, championship is his focus, and this is going to be a big hit.
And the incident at Laguna Seca last year was very similar in that a car moved over on him and he ran up on the tires. These are closed wheel cars, but when they hit each other, the tires will rub, and he got in the air. That time, the rollover, completed itself several times. This time, it came back down on all 4 wheels. But terribly unfortunate for Brian and for Joey Vickers, of course, whose great weekend has come to an abrupt end.
So John Dean, your leader. Sparks is second. Lamb is third. Reger is fourth. Roland is fifth. Then Stout, Palermo, Noker, Oxner, and Harris in the top 10. This thing is far from being decided because Sparks is right in the tire tracks, Nick Yeoman, of John Dean as they prepare for turn 13.
Yep, and chasing after them is that threesome as Nico Reger has moved into that third spot. But there's a look at your leaders through the carousel. Nathaniel Sparks is hounding John Dean right now as we have completed 10 laps here at Barber Motorsports Park, and most importantly, under 21 minutes to go.
So one thing to note, though, John Dean and Nathaniel Sparks are very good friends. Sparky won his driver's championship while driving for John. It would not surprise me, I don't know this for sure because I'm not in the car, it would not surprise me if those two aren't working together to try and build up a little bit of a gap. We saw that last year with Robert Stout and Patrick Gallagher, who went on to win the championship, where they could hook up together and pull away from the field. It would not surprise me if that's what's going on with the 2 6-sideways cars at the front of the field right now.
And Nick, Celine Roland, we saw him bobble into turn number 1 and lose a couple of spots, and quite frankly, he's in a bit of danger of losing that draft between Reger and Lamb. He's fallen back now as that battle enters turn 5.
Yeah, when we've seen some tight shots of that Mazda Red 87, that thing has looked sideways at some spots on the racetrack where you don't want it very sideways. He's got a good handle on it, but you mentioned it. Further back, you can see it's about a 5 or 6 car length advantage, maybe more than that, from Todd Lamb, who runs in the 4th position. So you're right. Roland is going to have to put and string together some clean laps to make sure that he doesn't lose that lead pack.
Jake, can we put a period on the day of Joey Vickers on pit road?
Unfortunately, the answer to that, Mark, is yes. The pole sitter is done for the day. Now, the good news is there was nothing wrong with the driver himself. As a matter of fact, he sat in the car, never got out of it, took his helmet off, and the engine was able to fire. They were able, as a matter of fact, to even push it back and then have him drive under low power back into the hauler area. But the diagnosis was simple on that McCumbee-McAleer machine, and that is that there was a bent strut underneath, and they determined that the damage was too compromising and to be able to, of course, get back out on to the track itself. So the day for the pole sitter is also done after that latest incident.
Much like yesterday's race, Nick Yeoman, things really starting to tighten up front. We see the leaders come down the straightaway. Dean with Sparks right in the tire tracks just behind them. Todd Lamb is taking a peek to the outside of Reger, while Roland is struggling to keep pace with those two packs.
Yeah, I think Lamb and Reger are going to have to probably figure out pretty quickly that they're going to have to do what Sparks and Dean are doing, which is run nose to tail, maybe do a little bump drafting down this long straightaway here to turn 5 so that they can catch those cars. The tighter they run, the faster they slip through the air, and they might be able to catch that lead too. Dean and Sparks aren't getting away. Last time across the line, Mark, it's 1.8 seconds. We saw some 2 and 3 second gaps made up, but right when you think they're going to work together, Lamb's looking to the inside and the outside as they make their way out of turn 5.
Lamb took a peek off of turn number 5, got the bumper there, but wisely backed out and tucked right in behind Reger. So Dean leads Sparks into turn number 8. Reger does the same for Lamb, and Roland, again, running 5th, is struggling to keep pace with that twosome just in front of them. Leal and Lee, the 31 to the 48, with a pretty good battle. That one enters turn number 5.
And we just saw a replay of the car number 9. That is Jesse Schmidt, who had problems yesterday. He went for quite a wild ride at the exit of turn number 1 and kicked up a little dirt. Got that car back out of the racetrack. So as for Schmidt, he currently runs In the 13th position, the driver from Derry, New Hampshire for Flat Out Motorsports.
Clock is down, by the way, to 17 minutes remaining in this race. And it is far from being decided, most assuredly, as Dean continues to tow Sparks around the course. Reger trying to keep pace with Lamb. Now, Lamb starts to fall back a little bit. Roland is basically out of that battle, and Stout is running all by his lonesome as well. Palermo trying to keep pace, but he can't. Noker and Oxter trying to tighten up in the battle for 8th just behind them into turn number 1.
Mo? The Mazda MX-5 Cup Series, I was just going to offer this note. The Mazda MX-5 Cup Series has been around in one form or another since about 2006. It began where people would buy an MX-5 Cup and a kit of parts from Mazda and build their own car. And through several iterations with the launch of the 4th generation Mazda MX-5 Cup, we took the build of the cars sort of in-house. There's one builder, Long Road Racing in Statesville, North Carolina. They build all the cars, all these cars that are raced globally. They're raced in Europe and Japan and other countries. They're all built in North Carolina. And so the people who've been with the series for a long time and stayed with the series for a long time, they really understand how the series works, how the tires work. And that's evident now because in the top 4, we have 3 former series champions in Dean, Sparks, and Lamb. And Reger, of course, was a standout a couple of years ago, and Celine is a scholarship winner. So it's a great series for drivers to build up a sort of a portfolio of good, tight racing, road racing here in the U.S., and it's been around, since 2006 and goes from strength to strength. I don't think we've seen a stronger year than we have now.
Let's talk about how pleased your title sponsor is to be a part of this series and what they bring to the table.
Well, I hope they're pleased, but I can tell you we at Mazda are extremely pleased to have our title sponsor on board. Battery Tender, the folks at Battery Tender, it's a family-owned business. They do a wonderful job with their business, but they do an even better job here with us in the series. They attend many of our races. They just love being involved. Not only are they the title sponsor, they're also the sponsor of the Battery Tender Hard Charger Award, which goes to the car and the crew chief that make the most passes during a race. And so it's a fantastic relationship. We are absolutely thrilled to have Battery Tender on board. And we just love spending time with them.
How about the battle for the lead? Looked like it could be a 2-car battle with the teammates ganging up and checking out. Think again, because Todd Lamb and Nico Reger, Mark Janes, they have run down the front twosome. It's a 4-car battle here for the lead at Barber.
And we've got a car headed to pit road with some issues, and we'll try to get a visual on that in just a moment. But Mo, while we're keeping an eye on that action up front, you and I were talking beforehand. I said, well, how many sets do you bring in terms of BF Goodrich tires over the course of the weekend? And you said, yeah, really don't bring that many because tires aren't a worry with the product that BF Goodrich provides for the week. BF Goodrich provides for the weekend.
And that's correct. Again, BF Goodrich, provide really good tires for the series. They don't go off. They stay. They're good for the whole race. These are 45-minute races. And BF Goodrich is another partner who's been with the series for a long time, and they love being here. Pete Calhoun from BF Goodrich is always on pit road with us, and we love having them. We love having their tires under our cars, and particularly at COTA.
Yeah, that's what I was
2
going
weeks
to
ago.
say. They were over the moon happy.
Second race was in the wet, and many of the drivers stepped out of the cars and said, man, those wet tires were as good as dry tires, as good as slicks.
For
They
sure.
were fantastic tires from BF Goodrich.
Let's get a pit update from Tony Laporta here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yeah, guys, as I'm patrolling pit lane down here, I bumped into a familiar face. Most of us here in the MX-5 Cup Series know him pretty well. 2016 scholarship-winning driver Glenn McGee. Glenn's down here on pit lane. Glenn's just hanging out, doing a little bit of coaching, and I understand you've got a pretty successful driver you're advising this weekend. Who you got? Who's under the tutelage of Glenn McGee this weekend?
Yeah, so we have Celine Roland, who's this year's winner of the Mazda Scholarship Program. So he came up through Grassroots Motorsports, just like all of the drivers who come up through the Mazda Road, the 24 shootout, and he won the shootout, and now he's with us at Six Sideways. And I was a scholarship winner in 2016. I benefited from being coached by Mazda factory drivers, Mazda scholarship drivers, and now I'm getting a chance to give that back to Celine. I'm coaching with him. He's new to this series, but he's been really awesome to work with, really in tune, listens in. It's really hard to race in this series. It's unlike any other series. The racing is so incredible, but he's really just focused in on this, and we've already got a win under our belt, which we've been really amazed at. And I think right now he's 4th or 5th running top times, and we've still got over 10 minutes on the clock, and I could see him. He's one of the more aggressive guys, so he's definitely somebody to look out for. He's in the red car out there if you see him on screen, but I wouldn't doubt it if he could win this race.
And then Glenn, from one scholarship driver to another, what makes Saleen so good?
He's just out of the box, fast pace. He's just Mazda's always looking out for talented drivers. It's really important that Mazda's here, because if you look at the IndyCar grid, over 50% of the talented drivers come through some Mazda program, and they really look for guys that maybe don't have the financial backing but have the talent. And he just has natural pace. He can wheel the hell out of a car and never lose it and just keep it on edge, and that makes him so fast on track, and that's what they're looking for. They want to find the fastest guys that they can help get through those lower rungs, and that's what makes him so good, is his car control and just his out-of-the-box pace.
All right, well, as Mo Murray up in the booth for Mazda has been talking about, the Global MX-5 Cup is a driver's championship. Glenn McGee's a driver, and he likes the driver that Saleen Roland's becoming. Glenn, thanks for stopping and talking to us, and hope to see you in victory lane when this one's all over.
Great, Tony, thanks.
That's Glenn McGee, guys, working with Saleen Roland in that number 87 this weekend here in Alabama.
Good stuff, Tony Laporta, as we watch this battle 1 through 4 continuing to be nose to tail. Mo Murray for Mazda. That's the cool thing about this paddock. A lot of talented drivers on the racetrack, but a lot of guys that they can get some feedback from as well, and Glenn McGee is certainly one of those guys.
And Glenn is a very interesting case, because when he won the scholarship to race in this series, he won it by being an online racer. He won it through an iRacing scholarship, and he raced a virtual MX-5 championship and won that, came to our shootout and won the shootout. And Mazda actually really values that online racing community, so much so that we just launched something called the Mazda Hot Lap Challenge, where consumers at races and online can compete in MX-5 Cups, cars online, and the winner gets to actually test one of these cars early next year.
I'm on iRacing, Mark James, but usually I just embarrass myself. I'm not very good. It's a lot of fun, and the detailed Barber Motorsports Park, that track's available, these MX-5 cars available, and I've had some fun tooling around on that, but you're not going to find me in one of those cars anytime soon.
There's a car a bit off the pace, and the leaders have caught it. We assume that driver is going to do all he can to stay out of the way, and indeed he does. He gets awfully wide and lets those 4 cruise by. Who are we talking about? Dean, Sparks, Reger, and Lamb. They're already setting up for turn number 5. Got to say thanks to the 12 machine for sliding out of the way. Michael Globe from that Masters division. And Mo, for those keeping track of the timing and scoring that might see that little M in parentheses, for instance, with Todd Lamb, let's again differentiate exactly what that M means when it comes to being next to that driver's name.
So the M stands for Masters Class. What we did is we created a separate championship within the championship for drivers who are, shall we say, have more life experience than some of the younger kids, and they want to get out there and race, but aren't perhaps willing to take all the risks that the young kids are, although some of them are proving us wrong. There's a Masters Class, and there's also a C, a Challenger Class, and that was created by the folks, by Mazda, for the folks at Monticello Motor Club. They sponsored the Challenger Class. And basically, it's for gentlemen drivers who don't really want to commit to doing the whole season. They have a car, they want to get out and run, but really they spend more time doing local races or track days with the car. But when the big show comes to town, they want to get behind the wheel and race the car. So there is a Challenger Class, and right now we see a challenge for second place.
Yep, pretty good battle. It's a side-by-side one off the final turn as they start to head down that straightaway. It's a 3-car battle now between Sparks, Reger, and Todd Lamb into turn 1, Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, Reger and Lamb both got great runs using the little bit of banking that you have out of that final corner. They roared out of there, and Nathaniel Sparks had to hold the inside to not crowd those guys off the racetrack. He lost a lot of momentum and got freight trained by Reger and Lamb. So while John Dean enjoys a nice little lead, 0.8 of a second as of right now, you're right, Mark. It's starting to pick up as we've got a new driver in second and third.
And John Dean saying, go ahead and slice it up, boys. That allows me to gain a little distance. But now, all of a sudden, Nick Yeoman, he started a little bit deeper in the field for the race today, talking about yesterday's winner, Nico Reger, and now all of a sudden he finds himself very much in contention to sweep the weekend.
And we've been keeping track of those passes. 256 yesterday. We're already up to 194 today, Mo. So these drivers haven't wasted any time trying to match that big number yesterday.
Nico Reger started 11th yesterday and has worked his way via attrition, some incidents, and also just hard charging to grab that second spot now and put himself in position to challenge to again sweep the weekend. It's still Dean, Reger, Sparks, and Lamb as they slice and dice it up through the more technical portion, also a very fast portion of the race course. Here at Barber Motorsports Park.
And I'm keeping my eye on that third-place running car of Todd Lamb. He had a really good run going yesterday, Mark, before he got a bump into the Alabama roller coaster exiting turn number 1 that got him sideways and off track, and then never got a full course caution to be able to bunch back up with the field. His chance of winning yesterday's race went awry. Now he's running in that front group, and I expect that guy to really get aggressive here over the last 7 minutes to try to win this race.
Sparks losing the pace a little bit. Meanwhile, Reger and Lamb keeping pace. As a matter of fact, they were into the brakes just a little bit later into turn number 1, which allowed them to really close the gap on Dean, and they're right there together now. Will Reger take a look to the inside? No, he'll go to the high side instead. We'll see if he'll cross over behind him. He'll stay to the high side. Bottom of the racetrack opens up, and they're bunched up at the exit of turn number 5.
He wanted to do that crossover move. The only problem was Todd Lamb was the aggressor towards the inside. Now down this long straightaway up the hill, it's going to settle down a bit as John Dean's going to hold that lead, and Nico Reger does a nice job of fending off the challenge from Todd Lamb. But Mark, what that has done is allowed Nathaniel Sparks right back into this 4-car race.
Yeah, notice that off of turn number 8. Sparks is right there to the rear bumper of Todd Lamb. They'll stay single file now as they head toward that long back straightaway now. The cars snake around. Lamb starts to lose a little momentum now as those front 3 start to pull away.
Boy, Reger just looks so fast, and he is all over the back of John Dean's car. Dean is a veteran. He knows how to win these races. He knows how to win championships. But Nico Reger has been the dominant, I don't want to say dominant, but certainly the fastest, most competitive car this weekend. Picked up the victory yesterday, and Mark, he is all over the back of Dean trying to score a sweep of the weekend here in Alabama.
Tony?
Guys, you're exactly right, Nick. You basically described it perfectly. John Dean is a veteran. He is a very experienced guy in this form of racing. He knows how to set the pace of the field.
Okay, 3 wide now into turn number 1. They had to back off a little bit for the slower car, Nick. A battle just past the start-finish line.
And Reger made the pass into turn number 1, so he regains the spot where he finished yesterday. Nico Reger back to the front here at Barber Motorsports Park. John Dean falls into second, and now he'll have to fend off the challenge from Todd Lamb.
Lamb is coming for sure, but now it appears as though Dean wants that spot back. Takes a look to the inside as Reger goes a little high. Now Reger gets to the bottom of the racetrack, pulls off the block, but it was a clean one. Lamb is right there, and again, Sparks is trying to keep pace as they head toward turn 6.
Boy, this is just tremendous racing as we are under 4.5 minutes to go here at Barber Motorsports Park, and these drivers probably only going to get a couple more laps around this racetrack to battle it out. Everyone nose to tail, the front 4, as they set up for the S's. Nico Reger in that black and blue car with the green cage has done a tremendous job fighting his way through the field. Mark Janes, now though, the hunter becomes the hunted as he's going to have to hold off Dean.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that point is the place to be in the last couple of laps, and we see him, Dean, popping out to each side, filling the mirrors up of that 0-1 of Reger. But now he gets a little bump from Todd Lamb, and they start to go side by side. But now that battle settles out as Lamb holds on to the 3rd spot. He's got some work to do, though, because Sparks is right there.
Boy, this is the unique characteristics of this racetrack here in Alabama. Lots of elevation changes, and Todd Lamb was using them to his advantage. Here's the crossover move, Mark. Lamb's going to be door-to-door with Dean as they race down into turn 1. Dean looks like he's got a little bit more horsepower. The battle now shapes up for 3rd.
Sparks wants the high side, but Lamb's able to beat him to it. They're not going to go door handle to door handle through turns 2, 3, and 4. They'll stay single file now as they exit turn number 3.
But look what this has done for Nico Reger out of the Alabama roller coaster. The advantage is 6 or 7 car lengths. lengths. His best friend, Mark Janes, is no doubt Todd Lamb putting the pressure on Dean.
Lamb puts the pressure on Dean again into turn number 5. He wants to get to the bottom, and he does. Can he hold the spot off the turn? It looks as though he will. So now we'll see if Lamb has enough time to set sail for the leader, Nico Reger, but Dean grabs the second spot back. As I say that, now all of a sudden, Lamb and company want to come storming back.
Boy, they are door handle to door handle, not giving each other a lot of room. Dean and Lamb, they're going to go side by side, nearly made contact. They might have touched down through the hill. Nathaniel Sparks gives a little bump to Lamb as they race out. Now the advantage for Reger, Mark, a good 10 car lengths.
Lamb with a strong move back up the hill toward that back straightaway, and as they do that, Nico Reger starts to set sail now. The business continues to pick up for that second spot, the battle between Dean, Lamb, and Sparks.
This is great stuff. 2.5 minutes to go here at Barber Motorsports Park in the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup presented by BF Goodrich Tires. We've got a slugfest up front. Best battle now shaping up for third is Nathaniel Sparks. Mark, he's doing everything he can to get around Todd Lamb. The thing is, he can't find that preferred groove because Lamb is searching for one to get around Dean.
And again, Reger is the big beneficiary because he continues to start to pull away. He's got a pretty sizable advantage now as the battle between Lamb and Sparks heats up into turn number 1.
Just about 2 laps to go here at Barber Motorsports Park through turn 1 and 2. Reger's advantage right now about 8 car lengths. Sparks, though, has got to get on it if he wants to challenge for the win. He is all over the back of Lamb as they race back up towards the hill. Tony Laporta, Nathaniel Sparks looking for that final step on the podium.
Guys, Sparky podiumed here twice in those 2 races we ran here last year to kick off the 2017 season. And why is it big for him to do well here in Birmingham, Alabama? Well, he calls Mobile, Alabama home. Spanish Fort, to be more specifically. He's got a lot of friends. He's got a lot of family here all around this long, beautiful racetrack. He wants to perform well for them. He was disappointed he couldn't bring home a podium result and take him to victory lane yesterday. He's going to push as hard as he can here in this last lap and a half for all the folks he's got visiting him from Mobile this weekend.
It means a lot for a driver to win in essentially their hometown. Go back to Graham Rahal, who won in the Verizon IndyCar Series at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Even James Hinchcliffe getting on the podium at Toronto last year was huge for him.
And the cool things about this series, they go to so many different racetracks across the country. There's a pretty good chance that if you're from the United States or from North America, they're going to be racing somewhere near to you. So that's a big weekend for Nathaniel Sparks, but he is still doing everything he can to get around Todd Lamb for that third spot. Meanwhile, Mark, up front, Nico Reger's going to see the white flag here in just a couple corners. And I'll tell you what, John Dean might be within striking distance. He's got it down to 2 or 3 car lengths out of the final corner.
From 11 to 13, they really kind of hooked up second, third, and fourth to put some pressure on the leader. It looks like they've got a shot at him. Certainly Lamb looks strong into turn number 1. He's all over John Dean as they head towards turn 2.
But Dean probably needs a good shove from Lamb out of the Alabama roller coaster because right now he's 2 or 3 car lengths. He's within striking distance. Not sure he's going to be close enough down here in turn number 5, Mark Janes. But those drivers, second through fourth, pushing hard, trying to catch Reger.
Yeah, the battle essentially, I think, is for the last spot on the podium, and that is between Lamb and Sparks. I don't know if they can get Reger or not, although as I say that, through turn number 5, they really start to pull in on him. He gets off of turn number 5 cleanly. Reger starts to pull away a little bit, but now, Nick, as they start to head toward that museum in turns 7 and 8, Dean and Lamb and Sparks are all right there.
They are right there, and they're also catching a lap car that hopefully doesn't play into this one, but this 4-car battle is once again nose to tail. Out of the hill, down by the museum. Lamb runs a little wide. That allows Sparks to close right up on the back bumper, but here is John Dean, Mark. He's a car length right off the rear bumper of Nico Reger.
Dean is right there as the course starts to straighten out to get a car in front of them. It's a matter of where they catch him. Reger with a pretty good run, but him and Dean are going to go side by side.
Boy, Dean got a great run through the S's. He'll use the curbing to the inside. That's going to stall out the momentum, and Reger's going to gap him by 2 or 3 car lengths. Mark, it looks like John Dean took his shot, and it wasn't enough here at Barber.
Now Reger's under assault from Todd Lamb. Lamb wants another spot. He wants that second spot on the podium. Nick Yeoman, they head toward the final turn, and it looks like John Dean's going to pull it off.
John Dean is going to be about 3 car lengths behind Nico Reger, who wins here at Barber Motorsports Park in race number 2. John Dean did everything he could to try to catch him. He does hold off Todd Lamb for the finals, or for the second spot on the podium. Lamb with a hard in third, and Nathaniel Sparks will come home fourth. But what a weekend for Nico Reger here at Barber Motorsports Park.
I know it's early in the season, but that's our first repeat winner.
No doubt about it, and with the problems that Brian Ortiz had today, that could be big for him as we see the number 73 car of Charlie Bellardo. He is the leading driver in the C class, Mo. We call it the Challenger class, as he looks like running in the 18th position, maybe poised to win that class here. Todd Lamb, by the way, picks up the victory in the Masters class with his third place position.
Competitive racing throughout the field, although just three race leaders and 2 lead changes, a total of 242 passes to this 45 minutes.
Yep, pretty impressive as here comes Bellardo out of turn number 14. He'll see the checkered flag and score that win in the Challengers class. He's got that red battery tender logo across the top, and a nice afternoon for him, and it looks like he had to hold off some strong competition back there further back of the pack, Mo.
Yeah, what a great race. When the second, third, and fourth sort of got tangled up with each other a little bit and dropped off for Reger, you could look back and say, well, Reger's got this in the bag. But as I said earlier, John Dean is not a guy you want in your mirrors, and he just reeled him in and got closer and closer and closer and made a valiant effort there on the last lap to try and get in front of him. One of the things that impresses me so much about these guys, same happened in COTA, is they'll race very, very hard against each other, and in any other series, it would be easy to see somebody like Dean charge in there, lose control of the car, hit Reger, take the pass. These guys, they almost never touch each other, and that's very impressive. Same thing in the wet at COTA. Same thing yesterday. Very, very close racing, but really fair, good, fair racing.
How about that 14-year-old Mark Janes? Robert Walker comes home in the 6th position. Celine Rowan is 5th. Those two kind of got shuffled out of the mix with the great battling up front, but tremendous results for them.
I mean, my goodness, Mo, again, he continues the string of just biding his time, getting the seat time, getting experience, and he's, as you said, he's finished in the top half of the field and among the top 10 in all 4 of his starts. Gosh, I can't imagine.
I talked to him over at the autograph session we had yesterday, and like any 14-year-old would be, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He was just completely blown away to be signing autographs for people.
That seems to go away, though, when he climbs in the race car, doesn't it? I mean, my goodness, what a steely competitor that young man is. While we're waiting to talk to the winner, Mo, give us an idea what the schedule looks like moving forward.
So next race for these guys, next doubleheader races in June at Road America. And then we go to Mid-Ohio, and then we go to
you guys up at Toronto?
No, we don't go to Toronto this year. We closed the season out at Monticello Motor Club in Portland, of course. Yeah, in September. We go to Portland with the IndyCar calendar. And then we close out the season in late September at Monticello Motor Club in New York. So we're 4 races down into a 12-race series.
Yeah, it's great.
We talked about that Monticello Motorsports Park and what a fabulous facility that is. I know you guys are excited to get the chance to race there for sure.
Tell you what, Nico Reger is out of that race car in victory lane. Jake Query, he sweeps the weekend here in Alabama.
Deja vu all over again. You might be a Texan, but that's an Alabama two-step going 2 for 2 here. Take me through what you learned from yesterday. What yesterday during that late run did you learn that allowed you to do it again today?
Really around this track, and something that I learned at preseason testing in general about this amazing Barber circuit is patience. I mean, just driving the car around this track takes a lot of patience. You got a lot of long sweepers and whatnot, but that really attributed directly into how I drove today. I knew I was starting 11th. I knew I had a lot of places to gain, so I just took it every little move with a grain of salt, one spot at a time, every lap, and we did it.
Obviously, it's still early in the season in this battery tender Mazda MX-5 Cup championship standing, but you're right there.
Yeah.
How do you not allow yourself to get too caught up in that and simply go track to track?
Just takes a lot of focus. I mean, I don't let these wins get too much to my head. I'll be back in the gym tomorrow morning. I'll be back on the simulator. I'll be back to studying. Hey, get back home and right back to work.
I mentioned it yesterday, but on May 9th, you'll turn 20. Happy birthday early. Enjoy it, all right?
Thank you so much.
Nico Reger wins the second of both races here in Alabama, Mark.
Tell you what, Jake Query, dominant weekend for Nico Reger as he picks up the win here on race number 2. John Dean ends up second. Todd Lamb is third. Want to thank everybody involved, Jake Query and Tony Laporta down on pit lane. Again, next up for the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup, it's off to Road America in June. Congratulations to Nico Reger on the win. For Mo Murray and Mark Janes, I'm Nick Yeoman.